Hello everyone. We're two peas in a library. I'm Lou and that's Bree, and you can find us over on Instagram. This month we're talking about Horns by Joe Hill.
Yes, so Horns by Joe Hill. So first off, in case any of you don't know, because I don't think it's a well-known fact unless you're already a fan of the genre of Stephen King himself, Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, and his book Horns also made into a pretty popular Netflix movie, so you might know it from that as well. Um, so basically, this story revolves around Ig, who kind of develops these horns because he did something bad following the murder of his very long-term girlfriend. They've been together for like years, like ever since like they were kids basically. She got murdered, and they had kind of just gone through a breakup that had a lot of attention, so attention is falling on Ig and he's being investigated. Everyone thinks that he did it, so he does something bad, he lashes out, he gets these horns, and these horns basically bring forth every single desire a human being could possibly have. Like it even like some of it even surprises me. So I definitely want to put some trigger warnings. There is going to be some sexual content in this book. Definitely some
Killing.
that yeah, definitely like very graphic
Yeah.
murder and grotesque things, as well as like there's some talk about like I don't want to say like it's homophobic, but there's some like
It's definitely got some overtones,
yeah,
homophobic
that's some
overtones.
overtone. So
Like the whole, like how all homophobes are secretly gay. That's what they're doing, basically.
yeah, basically. So trigger warning for that. Trigger warning for also one of the overlying themes of this book is has to do with religion. So that is something that we will be discussing. So trigger warning about that as well.
And then the biggest trigger warning for the book in general is Marin, when she was murdered, she was also raped. So, but like they don't, it's not like a 13 Reasons Why kind of thing. They don't go into
They
it too
don't
much.
discuss it all that much, yeah.
Yeah.
So they just give you enough
Um,
to know what's going on.
yeah. So,
So yeah, that is what we'll be doing today.
mhm.
Hooray! So I guess we'll start with how the horns are introduced in the book, because I feel like that comes pretty quickly in the book. And basically, one of the main things that I liked about this book is that it was very fast paced in terms of getting into the action and what's going on. It was very well built. The plot was very well planned out. So you read the first chapter and you're automatically, you're thinking about like what's going on. You're jumping into it, which I think is fantastic. I think both Lou and I have some different opinions about how the horns were introduced, so that is something that you and I are going to discuss. So I'll let you go ahead and go first.
I don't know if I have an opinion about how with the horns. I just I know I had a comment on it, but I don't know. I think like it's a very religious overtony thing. Like I think I don't know. I didn't hate how they were introduced. I think it was well. And we'll be going over like the difference between the movie and the book. So I think that's where I'll kind of get into it a little bit more. But
Yeah. I think like my biggest issue, and I know you and I talked about this before when I read it, my biggest issue with it was that the way that the horns were introduced themselves was not confusing, and it was very well written. He just kind of wakes up one morning and they're there, and he's like freaking out. I think it was funny to me how he wakes up with these horns, and he automatically just starts thinking, "Oh, I need to go to a doctor because that's not normal." And I'm like, I'm sorry, but like I could understand like if it was like some kind of like normal expected medical condition, like, oh, I woke up in this morning and it hurt when I took a piss. Maybe that I can understand being so calm about. But like you woke up with horns on your head, dude. That's not like some accidental medical thing. That's like something supernatural is happening to you right now. How are you this calm?
well, he goes to the doctor, and I think he says that he thinks he has like tumorous growth. Granted, I don't remember. I haven't read the book in like a month, and I just watched the movie, so the movie is a little more on my mind, a little easier. But I think he calls them like tumors, and there are tumors that do grow fast, so like it wouldn't be I definitely don't think he should have been that calm, but again, he also pissed himself too, so when he saw them. So I don't think that's necessarily calm.
Yeah. I bet
But
like it's just like even if it was like tumors that happen to be growing at the exact same rate on either side of your head, symmetrical on your face.
well, you also have to think you did say so they're supernatural things, right? So all they've it's kind of like very not necessarily like on the front, but you can kind of tell that the horns have like some kind of power over Egg.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
like they're probably exerting their power by making him calm.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
So like while yes, like he's freaking out like oh my god, I might have tumors growing out of my head. He's not like rushing to the ER. He goes to like his family doctor.
Yeah, and I think yeah, and that scene of itself was weird for both the book and the movie. But
Yeah.
I think like my biggest problem like when I was because I remember talking to you about it and I remember when I first started reading it, I was getting into it. I was really frustrated because while the introduction of the horns themselves was fine, it was trying to understand why he got the horns in particular.
Mm,
Because obviously the
yes.
way that the book was formatted, he kept going between present day and flashbacking to what had led up to that, which was I think was good. If you can
Mhm.
keep timeline separated, it works out really good. But I think it's just because like in my head, what he did in my mind, because from what I understand from both the movie and the book, was that obviously when that memorial service was held for Marin, he was kind of bittersweet about it because it was his girlfriend. They left on really bad terms because she just had that breakup conversation with him. Everyone in the town thinks that he did it, so it's very bittersweet for him. And so after everyone leaves, he kind of like pisses on the memorial shrine thing, and he's like kicking it
Mhm.
and like breaking things. And I think he breaks what was it, the Virgin Mary statue.
Yeah, he breaks some Virgin Mary. He like knocks over other things and drinks wine.
Yeah, and like to me, like that would be like a normal reaction, like in my mind for what he was going through. So I guess in my head,
Yeah.
like I kept expecting there to be more to suffice the reasoning for him getting the horns. I guess was my issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that where it was a little like it was like such a huge thing in the book. Like you're like, why did what happened? Like
And
why was he
I thought
doing
like
this?
he killed somebody. I was like,
Yeah,
what do I
or
know?
like I don't know, like something or me but then you just learn that he pissed on the Virgin Mary and knocked over a few things while drunk, like blackout drunk.
Yeah,
And it was
so
kind of like underwhelming.
yeah, for sure. So that was like my issue with it, but I kind of got over it. I was like, well, I guess this is it, Joe Hill. Thank you, but so that's kind of where
Yeah.
I off of that.
Yeah. Like
So
I don't know if it's like his first book or what, but well, it's not his first book, but I don't like I don't know if it was just maybe lack of ideas, lack of experience or something. Like I still enjoyed the book
yeah,
and everything. I kind of hated so obviously we're going to get into a lot of spoilers, so you can't be too mad about it, but I kind of hated that the person that you think did it.
yeah, that was definitely, and especially like with the way that he built that character, because from the flashbacks, the flashbacks are from Ig as a kid when he was so the guy that did it, his name is Lee, and
Mm-hmm.
the flashbacks go through how Ig and Lee became such good friends. Lee saved his life, and then Ig, being such the religious and spiritual, just like
Naive.
really good person, yeah, naive good person. He worships Lee after that. He like
Mm-hmm.
gives them a bunch of stuff. He's with them. They're best friends throughout their life. Growing up and everything. But Lee, the way that he's built up from his kid character to his adult character, it's very obvious that there is something mentally different about him. When you get to read about him as a kid, it's not too like evident how messed up he is,
Yeah.
but like you could definitely tell that there's just something different. There's some wire that got crossed.
Yeah, because like in the book, you do get like a whole chapter, which kind of took me out of the book, but it was like it makes sense to have it, but it was still kind of it was necessary but unnecessary at the same time, I guess. Like I don't know, but there's a whole chapter dedicated to Lee and his mom and dad living in this like farmhouse, and there's like an old tomcat or whatever that keeps coming onto their property.
I hated this chapter.
It's very gross, and like just because it has like obviously Lee ends up killing the cat, like that's pretty easily set up right there. And you were confused by it because you, like, I remember you texted me saying, what does this chapter mean, like why did they do this kind of thing. And basically Lee like disassociates when he kills the cat because he sees it from like, I'll just say God's view. Like he sees it like he's way up in the sky. He sees his dad driving home with his beer, like drinking while he's driving home, his mom doing whatever, and then the cat is running through the cornfield with Lee chasing it, and Lee decides, oh, I'm going to like to just kind of press his finger on it and crush the cat. And then when he stops disassociating, he's there and the cat is like all mangled. I think he beat it with a board or a rock or something.
I think it was like a rake type thing, shovel. I
I
remember
don't
like kind of
remember.
like fell on it and it like scratched him. Either him or the cat, either that thing or the cat like scratched him, and that's why he wanted to kill the cat or whatever.
The cat scratched him. Um, Lee and Egg kind of have the same kind of, at least when Lee was a kid, have the same kind of naivete where like Lee is like, oh, I want to be, this cat is my friend. Like he's leading me to like his home or whatever because Lee really wanted to know where the cat lived.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cat scratched him and Lee like went berserk on the cat.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that kind of attitude pattern follows him into his adult life, and like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't think we should get into the adult character of Lee just yet, because I
Yeah.
think there are a couple things we should talk about before. But yeah, that's definitely a pattern that he exhibits throughout his adult life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good character. Like Lee is the all-American prince, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that in the movie review.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the next thing would be talking about like what the horns do in particular. So obviously the way that the horns were introduced in the book, Lee wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror, sees the horns, pisses on himself, and decides, okay, I should probably do something about this. And he goes out, and amongst his grief, his anger at the world because of what's happening in regarding the investigation of the murder of his girlfriend, he's found like kind of, I don't want to like,
Solace.
yeah, something like that, in a childhood friend named Glenna.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been, he's been staying at her apartment. They've been sleeping together, and I do think they did this scene well in the movie, but like we'll talk about that in the next podcast. But so he goes out and she just starts talking weird, like, I want to eat all these donuts, like I just really want to get fat, so you no longer want to be with me, so that you'll leave. And he's like, that is so absurd, but okay, I guess tell me how you really feel. So,
He's just kind of like, okay, then do it, like, because she's saying that all the guys see her as like a pig anyways or whatever,
mhm.
that no one really wants to be with her, and
Yeah.
all of that. So she's like, I'll just get fat and fill that job description, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of feel for her in particular too, because her character, like I said, she was amongst. I don't want to say she was in the friend group, but she was one of the kids that they hung out with, when they were all growing up, and she was very obviously the one who, I guess I'll call her the village bicycle. I don't know. She got herself around sexually amongst
Yeah.
men in town. She was too willing to like give herself sexually to feel wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she gained friendship. That's how she gained love. She just put herself out there sexually. So she was kind of known as the slut, for lack of a better word. That's what everyone else seemed to reference her as, which obviously we don't support slut shaming, but that's what people see her as, And so I kind of feel for her in a way because, for someone who feels that kind of dejectedness and loneliness, to feel like to have to do that just to feel like accepted, it's very sad, and I hate that women have to go through that, and men too, I'm sure, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I feel for her character, and that's something that she continues to struggle with throughout her adult life, and that comes out when she desires to wanting to get fat via the horns.
Yeah. And she was Lee's girlfriend when they were
Yes,
kids.
yes, yes.
That's why she was always hanging around with Lee and Ig and Marin.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah.
And
So yeah.
then the next, and I think so. Up to this point, the desires that the horns bring forth in people are kind of tame. But then, like, you get to the doctor's office where Ig is in the waiting room waiting to see his doctor. That's where it gets kind of messed up. It's kind of like, dear God, like why would you even like think that, you know? Because there's like this mom and like this screaming kid, and so
they
many
did the scene
desires.
perfectly in the movie.
Yeah, and it's just
Like
like the person at the
the receptionist.
the receptionist, she wants to like murder the mom wants to kill the kid, like not literally, but
No,
mangle,
that's
like leave her there. She wants to abandon the kid there. She wants to just go home. She finds out that she's, what was
the
it,
mom
her golf club?
want yeah, the mom wants to like leave the kid and go have sex with her teacher again. And the joke that they use, it's really what, like insensitive, gross, I don't know.
Heinous.
Yeah, she's like, it's true what they say about black guys.
Oh yeah, she talks about like the girth. I'll call it the girth.
Yeah, she says that she calls it her 5 iron.
It's so messed up, y'all. Like it's weird.
And the receptionist tells Egg that she just wants to yell at the mom because like the kid is being atrocious because the kid is literally just sitting there and like screaming and screaming and
Yeah.
screaming.
Even the kid, she says that she wants to burn her mother while she sleeps.
Yeah, when Egg is leaving, she turns to him and is like, just says that she wants to burn her mom with matches, burn up, or whatever, like in the movie. It was, yeah, that scene was really like top notch, but
Yeah, it kind of definitely was a good like toe in the water to what kind of things that you were about to be introduced to, especially like when he goes into the doctor's office.
yeah, the doctor's like, oh, what I really want to do is crush up some painkillers and get fucked up. I'll share with you.
Yeah,
Like,
like,
what?
and then he starts talking about how like, oh, patients, they're always worrying about
Oh,
themselves. What about me?
and then, so this is a running theme throughout the whole book where, like, the doctor and then the priest and then the Egg's dad, I think, kind of alludes to it. I don't think he says it outright out. In the same sense, where, like, these grown men want to prey on young girls.
Yes, yeah, that, yeah,
Yeah,
because the doctor talks about like wanting to
wanting one of his daughter's friends' asses.
yeah, because there was like something about like them like playing in the pool or something like that, and yeah, the priest and then the dad kind of makes those kinds of hints towards Marin, I think.
The priest, I think, straight up says that she was like the best looking when she was younger, and that he like wanted a piece. And then the dad, I think, just kind of alludes to it, though it could be more like since Ig and Marin had been going out forever, like she was more family. Like I love her like family because that's what
Yeah,
it's
I think he
like
more
in the
meant like she
movie.
was like a
But
daughter to him.
yeah, but
Yeah,
never. I don't exactly remember. So
yeah, and I think because like even Lee, I think one of the best, not I wouldn't say best descriptions, but I think one of the things that best described how men saw Marin for sure was the fact she was described by Lee as being cherry, being virgin. Just because I think she kind of held that innocence about her as a girl. She had a very good way of like coming off as that kind of naive innocence, and I think that's what drew a lot of people to her.
yeah, and then also the fact that at least it seems like that she was just nice to everyone, like
Mm-hmm.
friendly towards everyone. So
Yeah.
obviously, like in today's world, being nice to people can
It's like, oh
end
no, she held the door open for
wrong.
me. She must want some bang.
Yeah. So that's a nice, fun thing that also goes on throughout the book.
Yeah. So basically, the book goes on, and Ig is discovering that he's
His powers,
he's starting to
basically.
get the hang of what the horns can do. Um, and I think now would be a good point. So I think now we should start talking about Terry and how we start to discover his involvement or not involvement in what happened
Yes.
to Marin.
Yeah. So Terry is Ig's older brother. He made it big. Like their dad was a famous jazz musician, and Terry followed in his footsteps. Ig was going to, but Ig has asthma, so he wasn't able to like keep his breath enough to be able to play the trumpet. Um like Terry and their dad. But Terry had like moved out to LA, had his own like talk show, TV show, music show, I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
But he had come out because I think they were like celebrating a birthday or something.
Mm-hmm.
So he was out. Um, and are we talking about like the night, the
Well,
what happened that night, or?
I was just thinking about like how Ig, he
Oh,
went home and he's talking to his family. He's hearing all these terrible things because, like I said, I think the horns are bringing out all their desires, right? And for the
mm-hmm.
family specifically, everything that's been going on has been really hard because a lot of heat has been falling on Ig, and they're associated with him because of the investigation. So deep down, obviously, they wouldn't say it to him under normal circumstances because he's their son, their family, but they all just kind of want him to go away because when he's there, it's drama.
Yeah,
Not really his fault, but it's the way it is. And so he's
yeah,
getting really hurt because he's getting all this backlash, and then he thinks, well, my brother has always been my defender. He's always defended me in
yeah.
anything, any accusation. So then what
And
Terry says the morning of, and then
yeah, in the book, like he's trying to like get out before his brother gets home,
yeah,
because like his mom is saying something like she doesn't actually like, his grandma said that she hates his presence. Basically, his mom said that she like doesn't want to hear him speak, doesn't want to be around him anymore, and his dad, like, I don't remember what his dad said, but I know he said something about Marin, and then like how could he do that or something, like the
yeah,
very like basic thing. And then so Ig is like, I want to get out of here before Terry gets home, because he doesn't want to hear what Terry has to say, because they've been really close
mm-hmm.
ever since they were kids. So he was like about to leave or something, and then Terry comes in, and like it's just, when you're reading, at least for me, I was like, is he under the spell of the horns? Like he just says, like the way Joe Hill describes it, Terry just seems so calm and collected, and like he's like, I didn't kill Marin. Like just straight up.
Yeah,
And Ig's like, what? And Terry repeats himself, and I think at that point, like Terry keeps trying to explain, but Ig just runs out of the house. And while
yeah.
he's running out of the house, he shoves his grandma, because she's in a wheelchair, down the hill of their house, and
Brutal.
like almost kills her.
Yeah, and because I think. I mean, like we read the book a while ago, so like we're doing this a little late. But I think what had happened was that I think that came out under the influence of the horns from Terry because it just weighed so
Mm-hmm.
heavily on his conscience. Because even though he didn't do it, he knows who did do it and he knows what happened. And I think he had said Lee's name. He had said something about Lee in association to Marin's death. So I think that's what fueled a lot of the red rage and like anger and rushing out that Ig did when he exited the home. Because I think he went. I don't know if he went straight to Lee from there, but that was definitely his next main destination. Like he had to go talk to Lee. He had to confront Lee. He had to figure out what happened.
Did
I
he go from his house to the church, or the church to his house?
I think he went from the church to his house. I think.
Um, yeah, not the church. The priest is just gross, and the nun like comes out as like a lesbian and decides to run away.
With more power too, but I was like, that whole scene was just funny to me.
That whole
Because
scene was just gross.
I think that whole scene was just like a fantastic way. Now, granted, I will never exploit my own religious views on this, but I just think for what Joe Hill was intending to do, he did a good job because I think he was intending to basically just blow out of the water all of the holy saint stereotypes that churches and just religion in general have put on them. And he's like, "Oh, you think these people are saints? Well, guess what? They're not."
Yeah. Yeah. So then yeah, I think then he goes to
Job.
Lee's work, I
Yeah.
think. But Lee is unable to be influenced because he's wearing a cross.
Which is where you start to
Um,
get the hint that this is definitely religiously backboned, I guess.
yeah, and then he also runs into Eric, which is one of Terry's old friends from when they were kids, who's like a big meathead,
Yeah.
basically.
Because he's secure, because Lee grew up to be in being involved in the politics of the town and Congress, and
Do we just want to kind of get into Lee's backstory so it kind of makes sense?
yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
So when Lee was a kid, like after he moved to the town that they're in, I don't remember which town it is. He like obviously started hanging out with Egg after he saved his life. What and the reason why Lee saved Egg's life was because Egg was dared by Eric to ride down this hill that they call Evil Knievel Hill because it's so like steep and like dangerous to just walk down or whatever, I guess. I don't know. Um on a shopping cart naked. So Ig does that because he's a stupid teenager and he wants what they call cherry bombs, which are like big firecrackers basically. And so Ig does that. He ends up in the water and Lee quote unquote saves him. So then Ig starts like kind of starts worshiping him, I guess basically. And he kind of makes his own backstory for Lee in his head. Like he thinks Lee is this like poor kid from like lives in a trailer with his mom and all of this other stuff. But it's not what happened. Lee is from a very fairly well off family and like he was going to fix Marin's cross, or he fixed Marin's cross for Egg, but then Egg traded the cherry bomb for Marin's cross to Lee. And when Lee goes with his cousins to like a junkyard or whatever and blows it up, and a piece of shrapnel gets lodged in Lee's eye, and so Lee's like partially blind, and I think his right eye.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything I'm missing from his backstory?
Yeah, I do want to touch on the whole like cross thing because I think that plays a whole important part to like how the plot kind of got kickstarted because basically Marin was new to the church, new to their church. That's where Ig first met her, and her cross had broke, and Lee was sitting behind her at the time, and he tried to like fix it for her while it was still like around her neck or whatever, but she was
But he
like, no.
was real creepy about it.
Yeah, and she was like, "No, don't touch me, fam." And then she left it for Ig to find because she was kind of using the sunlight coming in through the window, bouncing off the cross to like flash it into Lee's eye, not Lee's, Ig's eyes to catch his attention, kind of flirtatiously. And she left it on the pew for Ig to find because she wanted to get his attention. And it just so happened that Lee found out Ig had it and Ig couldn't fix it, so he was like, "Yeah, my friend Lee will fix it. He fixes everything for me. He saved my life. He'll fix his cross." But then,
Well, he gave it to Lee because Lee said that he had the like needle nose pliers
yeah,
that he needs to fix because it was the like the clasp broke or
yeah.
something.
And then it was like it came out that like Lee had a crush on her, and Ig was like struggling with, "Oh, he saved my life. I should let him have it," which he kind of did let him have it, but then he traded it back for the cherry bomb because he wanted to be able to give it back to her himself because
Mm-hmm.
obviously he was the one intended to find it in the first place. So
Yes. So yeah. So and then Lee after the whole shrapnel in the eye thing, it comes out like that Lee has been like stealing from the mall because he worked there or works there. And he has like a bunch of magazines and clothes and stuff. So it comes out that like he's been stealing, and long story short, he like makes a whole like, I guess I'll say, plea to the church or whatever, like does the whole repentance thing to the
It was like
church.
come to Jesus moment.
Yeah. And he gets basically put on a pedestal by the church also for doing that. So then as an adult, he's kind of like, I don't know, the church, like the church kid for some like Republican guy who's trying to run for governor or something.
He's some kind of like idolized public figure because I think they used his character as something that's relatable because obviously he had, I wouldn't say a rough upbringing, but he was causing trouble when he was a kid, and he made the initiative to go through the repentance and the self journey of fixing his behavior and becoming a new and better person. I think that was something that people could really idolize. So he kind of became like this really huge public figure for this congressman that he was working for.
Yeah, so and he had been working for that congressman for like ever, like he, I think, babysat a couple times their kids or something, and like he was basically like their son, like their adopted son. So he was really close with the senator, so and all of that, and then he can't see Egg's horns because of the cross.
So yeah.
Or he isn't, no, he isn't influenced by the horns because of the cross.
I
I
think
think
it
in the
kind of, I
movie
think it hints at like he can't see them either.
he can see him with his dead eye. I know he says that. So maybe he can't with his good eye. But
Yeah.
either way, he can't be under the horn's influence. So he like tells Egg that he's crazy or something, and
Yeah, because Ike basically shows up to his job, like kind of acting crazy. He has every intention to go in there and start shit. And
yeah, he like brings in like a metal rod, like a tire iron or
tire,
something,
yeah, he's hiding it up his sleeve.
and tells like the front desk guy to like tell Lee that Egg's here and he wants to talk, and instead of going through security because they have a metal detector, and then that's when he meets Eric, who has become like Lee's lackey basically.
Yeah, his security.
And Eric is like the big tough guy who like followed in his father's footsteps to become
I'm not sure I understand.
to become um, a police officer and all of that. So and Eric had been in a couple of scenes prior, because he is an actual cop also. I think he just does security like on the side or something for Lee.
Eric wasn't one of the two cops, was he?
I don't know at
You
this
know this
point.
who I'm
Like
talking about, yeah.
I know in the movie he was,
Yeah,
but I don't remember if it was in the book.
yeah.
Um, but I'm pretty sure he had been in earlier scenes, just kind of harassing Egg, like saying that what I wouldn't give for you to screw up so I can beat your head in, or
Yeah.
like those kind of like the whole police brutality kind of bullshit.
Right, yeah.
Um, so then like Egg goes outside. I think he kind of comes to his senses and goes outside, and then Lee comes out and is like, "Yo, what do you need?"
And it's like, I want to beat your butt. That's what I want.
Yeah, and Lee comes out and he has like a pocket knife and tries to kill Egg, and then Egg is able to hit the pocket knife out of Lee's hand. So Lee calls over to Eric and is like, "Yo, this dude has a pocket knife.
He
Come
has a
help!"
gun. Oh no, shoot him! Shoot him!
So Egg like gets away, gets back in his car and gets away.
But then, like at that point in time, Lee is starting to find out that Egg is starting to catch on to what happened. Like he knows something. He might not know everything, but he knows enough. And Lee is starting to realize, I need to keep this son of a gun quiet. And so he sends Eric to Glenna's apartment to
Yeah,
try to like off it.
finds Egg, or like, yeah, like off Egg. because Egg made the mistake of going back there for some reason.
Yeah, that was stupid. And then
Yeah,
like
so
like
then
with like boiling water on Eric's head and ouch.
yeah, he went back to Glenna's apartment because I think he realized he was actually really hungry, so he started boiling water to make to make
boiled eggs.
to make deviled eggs.
You just want that poor man just wanted some eggs. What a long day.
Yeah. And then I think after that he goes to like their old hangout spot where they hung out all as kids.
Yeah,
It's like an abandoned factory
yeah.
basically.
And the snakes. Shall we talk about the snakes?
Oh yeah, so you know the whole thing where Lucifer is this like convinced Eve as a snake or whatever. So obviously there's a whole bunch of snakes around.
They
And
just
it's
like
actually
follow him. It's like
yeah. They it was actually like it was weird, but it wasn't like super weird.
Yeah, because like once you kind of got along, once you started getting used to the fact that yeah, this is definitely has a religious backbone, it made sense. So like you weren't surprised. So
Yeah, so it's like whatever, and then he like befriends this like really poisonous snake. Um I don't remember which one it is, but it's like they're obviously based in I think Maine.
yeah,
I think right. So it's like a rare snake that you like that is in Maine, but you don't come across it super often.
yeah.
Um
What is up with
so
like Stephen King and Joe Maine? Maine is just everything. Yeah, if you have to guess, it's Maine for any Stephen King novel, and I'm guessing now Joe Hill is Maine. You don't have to guess.
um so like that becomes his like main snake basically.
Maine snake.
Um and then what is it? He gets like and then Lee finds him there with no, just Lee at that point. I don't think Eric's with him that time. But then Lee finds Egg there like the next day or something. And so he like beats him up, puts him in his car, and sets the car on fire with Egg in it.
Yeah.
And then like Egg fucking baller move here. He
Proud
like
of
is
him.
able to start the car and like get it moving to go down the hill into the river because it's right on a river. So that puts out the car and like he's able to get out of it and all of that, and then he becomes more devilish looking because he has like bright red skin and burnt
Yeah.
skin and all of that.
Because I think that like
So
with the way that the horns are coming from underneath like his scalp and his skin, I think that top layer of skin just kind of got like burnt off, and then it showed like what was underneath, and I think that's kind of what they did with that.
maybe, but I think in the book when Egg does like get the cross, Marin's cross, I'll just say it now. It's Marin's cross,
Hmm.
and puts it on, I think his body is still all burnt up, even though like the horns are like gone.
Oh yeah, because we find out that Lee had Marin's cross,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, how did he get that if he didn't kill her?
Yeah,
Kind
because in one of the fights, I don't remember if it was in the first one or in that one, Lee or Egg is able to get the cross off of Lee.
I think it had come off during the fight, like with the car, right before the car caught fire. I think.
I think so. So then Egg looks super devilish. He goes around. I don't know where he goes. I know he goes to talk to someone. Talks to someone.
Yeah.
Firstly, I also love his outfit, his new outfit in the book. It's a skirt and like a trench coat.
We
It's a great
love
outfit.
that for him. Because he just found some.
Um,
He just found these discarded in the forest. So
disgusting clothes. Yeah.
I'm like, bro.
No, yeah, he goes and they find so while that's all happening, the town finds his car all burnt and in the river, so they're pulling it out. And Egg is kind of watching from afar and then sees Marin's father watching and then leaving really quickly after they pull the car out or whatever. So Egg breaks into Marin's dad's car.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, like has a whole conversation about Marin with him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And his father is like, I know you did it. How could you do it? All of that, basic kind of stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, then I think we basically get to the point because I think now this is a part that I'm still kind of like iffy on because obviously it's been a while since I read it. But how does Terry tell Ig the whole story about what happened, or does Lee come clean during like one of their fight scenes?
I think it's I know because another power that Egg has is when he touches someone, he can kind
Yeah,
of see
he was
past or
back.
like whatever.
Yeah.
So at some point, Egg touches Lee and like sees all of that. Like I don't think it's until right before their last fight or something.
Yeah.
Um, where he learns that, but so yeah, so he goes from talking with Marin's dad to I think the diner or the bar where their last fight all happened.
Yeah, because the waitress.
Yeah, because the waitress has been spewing some lies, basically saying that like after their fight and Egg driving off, she said that he came back and like forced her into his car, and she had already lied to the cops once, saying that they left together, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But then other witnesses said no, they Egg left and Marin was still there.
Yeah. So I guess now we should talk about like what actually happened.
Yeah,
Cause
so yeah. The
yeah,
what happened was after so how are we talking about the causes of what happened or just what happened?
we'll just talk about like what happened for right now.
Okay, so what happened was Marin broke up with Egg. They had been together since they were like 14, so they were together for basically forever. Um and then um but she broke up with him right before he was supposed to be leaving to go to like his dream job basically in England.
Mm-hmm.
Um but it didn't like I don't think she thought that there was going to be a different outcome, but it ended up in a bunch of yelling. Egg was really pissed off. He drove off
Because it was
and
insinuated
parked.
that she might have like found someone else.
Yeah, he we'll get to the reasons why, but yeah, he was like who like she definitely wasn't denying that she was seeing someone else, and he was like how far has it gone? Have you guys already like screwed and all of that? And she isn't answering, so he's taking those for answers. So
Yeah.
then he like pays and storms off, and drives away and like parks for the night. And then a little later on, Lee and Terry pull up and pick her up, but Terry's like so fucking
High
high.
off his butt. Yeah.
Yeah, like they had come from the beach and were just partying, and then it started raining really hard, so everyone kind of scattered.
Yeah.
So Terry was like out of his mind.
Yeah. Not to mention when Terry was moving from the passenger seat to the back seat to make room for Marin, he hit his head on like a toolbox, so like he was suffering like a potential like brain injury. No biggie.
Yeah, it's fine. And then so they pick up Marin, and then Terry just kind of lays down in the back seat, kind of going in and out of it because he's so like dead to the world basically. And then eventually like Marin tells Lee to pull over so she can change because he has
Right,
because she
gym
had been
clothes.
standing out in yes because she had been standing out in the rain for at least a few minutes until Lee showed up. um so while she's gone to go change, Terry falls asleep and Lee goes to do his thing, I guess.
And this, yeah, Terry ends up waking up. Um, wondering like what happened. Marin isn't in the car. They're driving back to Terry's place. Terry has a bloody rock next to him.
on top of his chest.
On top of his chest.
And is like touching it because, you know, like when you're just waking up and you feel something on you that you aren't expecting, you're kind of like, the fuck is it?
Yeah, so like blood's all over him now. And then
Yeah,
Lee's
so
dubs. I wouldn't say nothing because you're fucked.
yeah, no, they go back to Lee's house first.
Right. And I think that's like a change of clothes.
Yeah, Lee gives Terry like one of his shirts, and tells Terry all that happened. Like he tells Terry that, yeah, I raped her, I killed her, and you're an accessory.
Yeah.
Because it's not my fingerprints they're finding the blood on the rock, and it's not my clothes covered in blood.
So Lee was definitely very thoughtful on how he framed him for sure.
Yeah.
And like something, okay, so like I kind of want to talk about like Lee's adult character at this point, because obviously, you know, when you're reading the book, you're reading it from like Lee's perspective, so you definitely get to learn pretty well that he's pretty messed up. And I think a lot of what is messed up is his social interpretation, because he has a way of taking something that someone is doing in completely the wrong way. So with Marin, like we were discussing earlier, she's super supportive of everyone, very nice, especially to her friends. And nowadays, you know, people take just being nice as flirtation. You know, it's so easily misinterpreted.
Yeah.
And so Lee is like, oh, she's making moves on me. You know, she's like, she wants me. She wants to break up with Ike so that we can be together.
Yeah, the best way to state Lee's character is that he's like a nice guy. You know, the nice guy trope.
Yeah.
Where because like I don't want to necessarily victim blame, but she wasn't exactly helping herself.
She definitely had, I think she knew the kind of attention that she brought on, and I think she kind of milked it a little bit.
But like, so earlier in the when we're at Lee's chapter, I don't know how long it goes on, you learn that like basically he killed his mom.
That was so messed up. That
That
entire
part.
thing.
Yeah.
He's
But
like,
so we're gonna skip over that for a hot second. But so Lee calls Egg and Marin to tell them, oh, my mom's dead. Like they didn't know that he killed her. They thought that he had a really good relationship with her. But so he calls them saying that his mom is dead. So Ig, like, I think he's at work or something and isn't able to immediately get there. But Marin goes over there like as soon as possible, and while it's just Lee and Marin, Lee kind of backs her against the wall and puts his leg between her legs and like kind of grinds it up.
yeah.
He's like kissing on her neck and stuff.
Kind
And
of
Marin
chest and
Marin doesn't stop him, and she says it's because he was going through grief or whatever. But that's like, I don't know about you, but even if like my best friend is going through grief, if they did that, I think I'd still punch them.
well, yeah, because like number one, even if he is going through grief, she still is in a relationship with someone, and that's okay no matter what. And number two, that's leading him on in a moment of grief, and that's also like not okay. So like I definitely agree with you that she should have done something like, hey, like I understand that you're grieving, but like boundaries still exist in grief, my dude.
Yeah, like so, and then like during this chapter we're getting it all from Lee's perspective. So then Marin is like, why don't you go get a shower, because he hasn't changed out of his clothes or whatever in a couple of days. And he's all thinking, oh, we're gonna go shower together.
Yeah, and she's probably thinking, get him away.
Away, yeah, get him occupied until Egg can get here or something.
Yeah.
But we don't know because we don't get any chapters from her perspective, really.
Here's a thought though. What if? Because I don't know. Like I said, coming from a reader's perspective, which I know is obviously different than what would come from her perspective of him, I just feel like even his friends would have to know that there's something a little off about him. So what I'm wondering is if maybe Marin wasn't afraid. If she was like afraid to try to like stop it or like turn him down, because obviously what you and I figure, knowing him from a reader's perspective, is that if she would have just blatantly turned him down and rejected him, how he might have lashed out even sooner than what he did, you know?
Yeah. Like, there's definitely that thing, because I know a lot of people when they're like, that's your whole like sixth sense, right? Like, you can kind of tell that something is up. Like, Egg may not feel it, but I feel like Marin definitely would have.
Marin is
Especially
definitely a little bit more intuitive.
especially since they had been friends for so long, but like since they had been friends for so long, she might have just kind of like, I don't know, like maybe didn't necessarily think that he was a whole ass psychopath,
Right, yeah.
sociopath, whatever. And just kind of like brushed it off as like a quirk of his personality or something, or like because Ig was friends with Lee before Lee was friends with Marin, so it was probably more something like, oh, my boyfriend is friends with this guy, I'll be friends with him, and then it kind of spiraled out of control, to
Yeah.
put it mildly.
Yeah, so Lee is definitely thinking that, she wants him and everything like that. So when they break up, and everything like that, Marin went to go change once she got out of Lee's car, and Lee's like, hey, I'm gonna try to make a move to make her feel better or whatever. So he's out there, and he's still under the interpretation that she wanted them to be together, but
Yeah.
she's like, fuck, no, I'd rather, let's not do that. And then he's like, well, guess what? I can't have you, no one can. And then, bada bing, bada boom, dead girl in the forest.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Basically, like, Lee's whole character is like a nice guy.
Yeah.
A worst case scenario nice guy, I guess.
Kind of like a Dexter situation almost. Just
I never finished Dexter, so I couldn't.
like he's definitely like a psychopath like Dexter, and definitely has a good way of hiding it, but obviously Dexter has good intentions. Well, he does not. But
I was gonna say I think I'd prefer to sit and talk with Dexter instead of Lee, because at least I couldn't lead Dexter on because he doesn't want to have sex anyway.
true.
So, anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. um, but yeah, so that all happened, and then I guess we're gonna go back a little bit, and I want to talk about the treehouse that they
Oh
find.
yeah, because that would be a good segue into the whole like religious backbone discussion. Anyways.
So, one day while Ig and Marin are out, just kind of, I think they're walking to dinner, home from dinner. I think they're walking like to back to Ig's house from dinner at Marin's house. So, and they find like this random tree house in a tree, so they're like, obviously like all kids do, they climb up into it to see what it's about, and inside they find a Mother Mary, or Virgin Mary, not a Mother Mary. I guess that's the same thing. An angel.
Oh,
I know they find a devil, and then like two other figurines. I think there's like one figurine that someone, or a praying woman, I think,
yeah.
that someone has set up to basically like fondle the angel
Yeah. Someone was
in a
funny.
not very religious way. And then like some like toy, basically like a toy figure of, I think, an alien or something.
Yeah, it was an alien. Yeah.
And then a menorah also.
Yeah. They end up lighting the candles. So that's important. They light the candles.
They light the candles, they pray, and then they fuck.
Yes, basically. And yeah, and then like there's like the whole thing where when they were getting ready to leave, they like heard someone coming up and the door was like getting banged on, I think. Yeah.
Because there was also an old like gross chair. So because they were going to have sex up there, they put the chair over the trap door so no one else could come in,
Right.
to make sure. Yeah. So while they're after they finished, um, they hear someone start banging on the door, like trying to get in, and it freaks them out, obviously. And then when they leave, the whole horror movie trope, no one is there.
Yeah. It's like so yeah, I guess so in explaining the tree house, I guess that kind of ties into like the whole religious backbone. So I guess like once you read the book, it becomes very apparent that the whole like theme of the book is that it's basically, because like I feel like there are either two main views of religion, and there are the people who think, oh my God, God is amazing. You know, we need to worship Him. We need to have faith in Him, and everything will be fine. You know, we'll be to heaven as long as we repent for our sins and worship Him, whatever. And then there are the people who think like, hey, what kind of God is He if, you know, I'm gonna get sent to hell for my sins? You know, isn't He supposed to love me? You know, I shouldn't have to control like my entire lifestyle just to be accepted by someone who's supposed to love me for who I am, you know. And so it kind of goes off that second perspective where obviously the devil is supposed to be represented through Ig and via the horns and stuff like that. And I think it's also really important to bring up that Ig ends up kind of dying in the end of the book because he gets
He does die because he gets like stabbed by his pitchfork
yeah, the pitchfork.
and beat up a whole bunch. And gonna kind of interrupt you right there. And the whole reason why he obviously is wearing the skirt and then the trench coat and then he has the pitchfork and then like the red skin is because I think Egg mentions it in the book, but like in some popular media is that's kind of how the devil is depicted, like as a very non
Conforming.
heteronormative,
Yeah.
yeah, non-conformative person. So that's why Egg's wearing the skirt, and all of that. So
Yeah.
back to you. I'll let you talk about the religious stuff because, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the main theme that he's trying to build on here is that the devil, and out of everyone who could have written about this, I'm so glad that Joe Hill decided to because his writing style is a lot like his father's. And it's basically the devil is going to accept you and love you no matter what because he out of everyone knows what it's like to be cast down for just having an opinion because you know the whole backstory that Lucifer was a fallen angel because he saw how flawed the humans were and he, you know, that whole thing shebang, biblical backstory. And so basically that's what it is because when Ig dies he's depicted as burning in the treehouse, kind of, but like he's with Marin and he's happy, and you know, it kind of really encompasses the idea that yeah, hell maybe isn't as bad as we think. That maybe it's just a place for you to, I don't want to say indulge in your sins, but to be accepted despite your sins and to know that you are human. Humans were made flawed. You know, it kind of highlights the point that God was kind of like, hey, I made you guys flawed, and then I'm going to blame you for those flaws that I made you with? Like, that doesn't make sense, right? That's kind of like what the book is trying to encompass, and the devil is like, don't worry, fam, I got you. You're like, you want to die? You want to be happy? Here, I got you, fam. Like, let's
Yeah,
do it.
and then
We all
yeah,
know.
and the treehouse also kind of comes back into it because while the act of Lee while he's raping and killing her, it's I think it's done very tastefully, I guess, that
It's,
whole scene. But
yeah. It's cognizant of the people reading it.
yeah. Because it's only from Lee's perspective, so you don't get anything from Marin.
Mm-hmm.
But Marin says something. I think says something about I've found the treehouse egg or something like that. And Lee's like, the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
So like that's it goes back to that because after Ig and Marin had found the treehouse, they had like spent the rest of the summer looking for it, basically, like trying to find it again. And they never did. So obviously that's another like whole supernatural thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it comes back as like Ig ended up finding it later on as an adult, and the banging that their children version heard coming from the trapdoor was actually Ig as an adult banging
Yeah.
on it, trying to get her
The
there because he
yeah,
saw
the night that he like the night before all of this happened, like when he pisses on the Virgin Mary and knocks over things, he also goes up into the treehouse.
like I'm sorry, but like me too, but like I would piss on a Virgin Mary in his situation, like fuck religion.
Um, and is trying to get into it because, yeah, like you said, he sees the lights and stuff. So that's the
That's the
whole,
big
like,
thing, because Egg as a child trying to go back and find it. It's like, oh my god, I didn't blow out the menorah. It's gonna catch fire.
yes,
That was like
that
a
was
big.
the whole thing that he was freaked out about, which is part of why they decided that they needed to go search for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and then, yeah, so in the end, I guess if we want to skip to that part,
Yeah.
Egg tells his special snake, which is, like I said, which is that poisonous snake. He kind of sets up a trap for Lee because he doesn't think that he'll necessarily get out of it alive, but he wants to make sure that Lee dies. So in like a kind of a back room, he sets up, like, I think Glenna's phone.
It was
and
in the
then
furnace. He was like in that huge furnace. He was sleeping in that like that huge furnace thing.
yeah, so in the furnace, where, like, whatever area he was in, he set up like Glenna's phone, and then the snake underneath the blanket, and told the snake that the next person who comes in here to bite them and keep biting and all of that.
Oof.
And then I want to debate that what happens with that, but
I'm ready.
and then it goes out to, like, fight Lee, but he didn't necessarily account for the fact that Lee would bring Eric as backup, and is fighting them, and then at some point Lee shoots Eric in the head.
And then what Lee's response to that? Lee was literally like, "Oopsies." I guess
Literally, during the movie, during that scene, I actually laughed out loud when that happened.
He was like, my bad. It wasn't supposed to be you, fam. Like, it made any difference. His head got and just.
Just blown up, like, gone, dead forever. But then Lee and Egg are fighting, and Lee takes Egg's pitchfork and is, like, stabbing him and all of that.
And Terry just is.
Fucking Terry. Terry is there, but he gets, like, injured. And then Egg is like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go because Lee had brought gasoline. No, Egg had got the rest of the gasoline. And when it was going to, like, burn everything down, I guess.
Well,
And
might
when
have been like backup because I think he kind of realized that setting himself on fire was kind of like a reset to like any injuries or anything like that.
so he went, no, he was going to burn down the foundry for some reason.
Right. Maybe he
But
was.
so he goes, I don't remember but he gets the gasoline and pours it on himself and lights himself on fire to, like you said, reset all of his injuries basically. And then goes back and finishes Lee, like, gets Lee down enough, and then convinces a snake, because obviously he set himself on fire,
This
so
part,
there's, like, fire everywhere.
I can't.
So he convinces a snake. I feel bad for this snake, honestly. That Lee's open mouth is, like, a safe place to hide. And so the snake starts going into his mouth, which is suffocating Lee. And then, like, the snake gets so far in, and then finally Lee dies. And then and Egg is like, thinks, like, oh, the snake realizes that it's not actually a safe place and kind of gives up or whatever. And I'm just
Wait,
like, what the hell?
he also like come out of like some hole in Lee's body. Like he comes out here.
No, the snake dies in Lee because it can't go anywhere. It's going into his stomach, and there's stomach acid that'll destroy it.
I could have swore that it came out somewhere. I think that maybe that
I
was
think
just
that's in the movie.
really, yeah, okay.
Um,
See.
and then, like, Egg talks to Terry or whatever, or no, and then Terry goes to get help, but instead of walking all the way to get his own phone or something, he sees the trap that Egg set up.
Yeah, because Terry goes over there while Egg is still injured because Egg is trying to get reset so that he can help Terry.
Yeah,
So
because Terry, I don't remember what happened to Terry. I just, like, I know he got injured.
yeah, well,
And
he was
then
getting
Terry, so Terry goes over to get the phone in the trap, and then the one snake bites him, and Egg is like, at the last second, like, oh my god, I forgot about that, and tries to stop Terry, but obviously doesn't. And then, and then a whole bunch of bullshit ensues. Not really, but then Egg is able to call 911 and get people out there to help Terry, and then goes and then finds like leaves kind of basically, and like finds the treehouse again that I think was on a cherry tree, I think is what it ended up being. And then
Very symbolic cherry.
yeah.
Yes.
And then like goes to it, and it gets set on fire, but only that one tree is caught on fire, and then Egg dies and is rejoined with Marion, and Terry somehow survived. They say in the book he survived the poison because he's a trumpet player. So he was able to keep breathing longer than most people.
I think
And
it's
I
because
call
he's like
bullshit
that.
on that.
I think because what they were trying to say was that like his like the system that pumps the blood was so strong because of that it was able to like keep pumping or like pump it out or like
No,
prolong
he
it.
just was
Or,
able to keep breathing, but I still call that bullshit. Like I don't think that's something that could really happen.
oh, I don't think so. I definitely think that was just kind of like we need to tie this together
Yeah,
last minute thing.
and then it jumps to the end, and I really hated this last chapter. Like I think it was so unnecessary. Like Terry, like there's now this legend of like or a redhead girl, which is Marin, and then Egg running around like in the fields and by that the burnt down tree, and stuff, and Terry's out there just overlooking, like thinking about everything that happened, I guess, kind of processing it still.
Mm-hmm.
And then Glenna fucking shows up on her lunch break or some bullshit. And
Yeah.
they start talking, and I'm like, this was such an unnecessary scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And then so we also want to talk about what actually caused the breakup conversation. I
oh
feel like
yes.
we almost forgot about that because I think this was discovered. I'll let you actually talk about it because I know that you want to debate about it. But because I think when Ike went to her house to see her dad, and in doing that, he found some of her things, went through some boxes, and found some papers, and he discovered what really led to Marin having that breakup conversation with him. So that's where I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I'll say like her parents are there like at the house, but I think part of the power that the horns kind of give is like if he's not necessarily being looked at and talked to, they don't necessarily remember that he's there. So he's able to like go up to the attic and find a box of her things, and he finds a letter. This is all before the big fight at the end. So he finds a letter written in Morse code because that's kind of their thing, I guess I'll
Because he
say.
was flashing the cross, he thought that it was in Morse code.
He thought that it was, and then he asked her about it, and she said no, but it really was in Morse code. So he like goes to the foundry and starts decoding it, and basically it's saying that she has like really like a metastatic breast cancer, so like really like a basically a death sentence, I guess, at least to her. And her older sister had died from the same kind of cancer. And so she saw like how her sister was, like her sister went from this really nice person to this really like mean and nasty person.
Very bitter.
From all of like the pain and stuff. So, and Marion is like, decides I don't want to be that kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't. What the fuck just happened?
My lens, so my glasses have broken, and my lens just decided to pop out and give me a stroke in my right eye, so we're good.
All right. So Marion decides that she doesn't want that to happen. to her and doesn't want to like feel like she trapped Egg into like marriage and stuff. So like basically the letter is saying that all of that really, and that she wants Ig to go on to have a family, to have like children and grandchildren and great grandchildren and all of that. And it's like it's really like a really sweet letter.
Yeah.
And Ig is kind of like realizing, I don't think it's ever mentioned in the book, but he's kind of realizing like, oh my god, I'm such a dick.
Right, because like that scene at the cafe where they broke up was like dramatic.
It was so dramatic. But so yeah, then that gets us into our like final debate really, where I think Marion is like a real dick about how she kind of goes about that. Like I think she definitely could have gone and told Egg the truth, and then whether like, and then still like broken up with him or something. Because I think like even though they've been together forever, and like she obviously does like she does still love him and all of that, she could have convinced him, especially since he had been planning on moving to England to do his job.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that she could have been a little more sensitive about it. Like I don't think she should have gone and totally been like, we need to break up, like all of it. Like when you first read it and all of that, you're kind of like, I understood it, because it's like if you're only with one person since you're 14 and now you're, I think, what, 22, 23 or whatever, let's say. It would definitely be important to like maybe try other people, like try to be with other people and make sure that that's the person that you want to be with, because they had been talking about like marriage and the names of their children and like where they're going to move to and like the whole, all of that. So when you first read it, like at least for me, I was kind of like, okay, that makes sense. Egg is kind of an asshole for kind of reacting this way, because it's like a normal thing like for people to do.
Yeah.
And then you learn that, and then I'm just kind of like, oh, Marin's kind of a dick, because like she should have just handled that better.
Yeah, I don't like. I feel like it just depends on the type, like how you would handle it. Definitely depends on the type of person that you are. I mean, realistically, my initial thought is like she broke up with him because of it, because she didn't want him to feel trapped. But at the same time, I feel like that was almost deciding for Ig what he was going to do in that situation, and I think that's wrong, because for someone as sentimental as Ig was, it would have been so important to, because I feel like if she did decide to tell him, if that's how it went, he would have wanted to like be there for her and support her and be with her at least until it dropped off, until she passed on. And I feel like he was kind of robbed of the opportunity of what he would have wanted in that situation, which sucks. But then I also see from her perspective, um, I definitely think another option. Like initially, like I would like to think that I would, if I were in her shoes, I would be able to tell the person and just be like, hey, like I understand that you might want to be here to support me, but like I can't go through that. Like I can't do it. So like we would need to break up. Like I would like to think that that's what I would do, but initially I think that I might end up doing something similar to what she actually did, just to save the drama and the emotion, just because I would like to think that like I'd be pretty done at that point. I'd be like, fuck this.
Well, yeah, but like my, like obviously we don't get anything from Marin's side of
Which
like
is fine.
nothing, like no chapters, which is fine. So we just have to kind of guess. So my guess is that like, because during the rape scene, she kind of like gives in, I guess, kind of, like she doesn't really fight it.
Yeah.
So my thought process is like she's thinking that Lee will probably kill her, and she was probably thinking of killing herself, because
Yeah.
like we said, she doesn't want to go through all the pain and stuff. So I just think that she could have gone after it better, like whether she keeps up with the we should break up kind of thing. I just think that the reasoning she gives could have been better thought out. Like,
Yeah. Well, it was probably more like I'll hurt you this way because hurting you the other way would be a lot worse, kind of thing. probably what
Yeah,
she
I
was
don't.
thinking. Especially,
I don't know.
I feel like that would, especially like if she was thinking about killing herself, that was probably like that would make more sense if that's what she was thinking on doing.
Yeah, but at the same, because like at the same time, you also like think about like um if she had just straight up told Egg the truth, he could have I don't know, like been there in her final moments, like even if she like, because let's be real, she probably was planning on killing herself. Um, and like it would have allowed Egg to kind of have some closure, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
but like, say like she wasn't gonna kill herself and he was with her in the final moments, that kind of thing, it deteriorates a person. Just because like I remember like my Nana Meyer, she had beautiful like red hair. She was very gorgeous, and then she got cancer, and just it deteriorated her. She got so skinny, like skin and bone. Her hair was falling out. Like I can understand why she wouldn't want him to see her that way.
yeah, but Marin wasn't planning on doing any kind of treatments. Like she wasn't going to go through chemotherapy. She wasn't going to do anything because I think
That's true.
she was in like a nursing program or something. So that's how she got her biopsies
Yeah.
done. So like it wasn't even like some. I don't even think her parents knew.
Right.
So um, so like I don't think like she would have been like deteriorated like you said because I don't think she would have let herself get that far.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So yeah, that's Horns by Joe Hill, everyone.
Oh yeah, it was a fun read. I would recommend it. Like I enjoyed it. I'll probably read it again when I have a book that doesn't smell like cigarettes.
Right. Yeah. I
um
mean, like I gave it a 4-star review. I mean,
yeah.
um, in the regards to like Joe Hill's writing style, if any of you do like Stephen King, you kind of have like a comparison point for Joe Hill's writing because it's definitely because like the Stephen King, it's hard to follow sometimes because he's definitely really deep into the symbolism and tying weird things to philosophy and making you cringe in horror types of ways and stuff like that. Joe Hill is definitely a lot more calm and relaxed. He's like, "Whoa, Dad, calm down," and then we don't need all that extra stuff. So,
Yeah, like
it's a
as
good.
someone who yeah, as someone who struggles to read Stephen King, having Joe Hill as an option is really nice.
Yeah. Especially because, like I feel very comforted because, Stephen King, if any of you guys have followed our Instagram page, know that Stephen King is like my favorite, all time favorite author. And when he dies is the day that I die. So
So you'll have Joe Hill to fall
knowing
back
that Joe
on.
Hill will carry on the legacy, I feel very comfortable with Joe Hill carrying on that legacy because this is like the second book I read by him now. He has multiple out, so I feel
And
comfortable.
yeah. So yeah. So that was Horns by Joe Hill. Um we'll be doing a comparison to the movie soon also. So watch out for that also.
Yes. And next month, as for our book review, we're going to be doing You. Is that
By
correct?
Caroline Kepnes. Yeah, you.
Yeah.
By Caroline Kepnes, I think. Um which will be fun.
Especially because I can actually get the book now. So,
All right.
yeah, that is that. Peace out.